Maybe don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build. 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 This time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I am your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to episode 118 of the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. I know it's been a minute since the last episode dropped, and that's part accident, part on purpose. I had originally hoped to get this episode out on the first of the year, sort of in keeping with tradition, but getting everything ready for our trip to Waco took over, so I just accepted that. And here we are. I'm in Waco for the next 6 weeks or so. I've got big goals, both climbing and power company related. As long as I don't get completely distracted by interviewing all the people who are around here, it's an addiction, seriously. Anyway, a couple of announcements before we get started here. Exciting announcements, actually. This coming May, Nate and I will be giving a pre-conference workshop at the CWA Summit called Coaching Tools for Growth. And I'll also be presenting at the summit on a similar topic, as well as discussing deliberate practice and how to incorporate that into your climbing and coaching. The pre-conference workshop is actually really, really exciting to me. We'll be climbing with everyone, and we'll be practicing the language we use as coaches, essentially giving coaches a place where it's okay to struggle through a better method of feedback and a better method of language and coaching. If you're a coach or a gym employee who interacts with a youth team, then I think this is a particularly important topic for you. Registration for the CWA Summit is open, and early bird registration lasts until January 31st, so get on it. For me, personally, CWA has become an event that I have to go to. It's imperative for my business, for the growth of my business and myself as a coach. And it's the networking event, honestly, that I had always hoped Outdoor Retailer would be. If you're in the indoor climbing world, this is the event for you for sure. And if you're in the outdoor climbing world and want to connect and network, this is one you should also have on your schedule. So I'm really honored to be a part of it this year. You can find registration links at climbingwallsummit.org or right there in the show notes in your pocket supercomputers. Get on it. Early bird registration until January 31st. So today's guest really needs no introduction, but it's my pleasure to introduce her anyway. Eva Lopez is the woman who first got the climbing world excited about research. However, first, she's a climber who wants to improve, and she's a coach. And it's that desire that drives her research, and I'm incredibly appreciative of that. It's not science just for the sake of science. It's science because she really wants to help climbers improve, including herself. We sat down in Salt Lake City at Esther Smith's house the day after a really incredible presentation from Eva that highlighted her passion as a climber and really sparked the course of this interview. Eva and I have talked a fair amount since this conversation, and I implore everyone to stick around after the interview so that we can address further some of the things that Eva and I have discussed since. Okay, let's get into this.
Maybe don't know.
It's important to do the best for you in each moment. So forget about the mainstream. Forget about the videos on the internet because they are not for you.
Power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time
how did you start climbing? And if you were 2 hours from climbing, like how did that begin?
Honestly, near home, 10 minutes from my home, there is rocks.
Okay.
Very, very, very little.
Right.
It's like 4 meters or 5 meters of height.
Mm-hmm.
And I started there in a climbing course. And then I felt in love with climbing, and I decided to do everything I need to climb. No matter the time, and by car, no matter doing hitchhiking.
It's an addiction.
Yeah. I felt in love totally.
Yeah. I was curious because gyms didn't exist back then. And I started in a gym actually run by Renee and Margarita. They worked in the gym and helped build the gym that I started in. So I met them 25 years ago when I started climbing.
Yeah. In my case, it was a climbing course by a team of people was starting to develop climbing in Spain. They lived in my city, and they organized some climbing course in that little crack. And I started climbing, and I built this climbing wall in my home, very, very tiny.
Yeah, I thought that was a great photo.
Yeah, and I always climbed in a wall from a monumental building in my city.
Yep.
It was like erosionated in the gaps between the bricks.
Right.
There was like holes.
Yep.
So we climbed in there, doing traverses in the street, in the monumental historic of the city.
Yeah, I actually just got a text message from my friend Angie Payne a few days ago. She took a photo of a wall, a man-made wall in Cincinnati that I came up climbing on and that she climbed on when she was younger. And we were talking about that, about climbing on these brick walls. And there was one that I spent a lot of time traversing on, and I would count my progress. It was over a sidewalk, and I would count my progress by how many sidewalk blocks I made it across the traverse. And then once I could do the traverse, how many blocks could I come back, you know, until I could just go back and forth on this traverse. Super interesting to hear that that's the same thing that was happening when you started did you start in the early 90s? Is that right?
Yeah. I don't know, in 1990 or so for them. So there was another time, different time. It was different time.
So how did that love of climbing and this passion for climbing that I see that you still have very strongly, how did that turn into researching specifically about fingerboarding and finger strength?
Yeah, it happens that I love studying about how to improve my climbing.
Right.
This is the birth of my passion for research, because I wanted to be the better climbing I could.
Yeah. You said last night that you're a mercenary of rock.
Yeah.
I loved that term.
Totally. At the beginning.
Yeah.
I was only looking for people who climb with.
Right.
No matter if we get along or not, because the end justified the means.
Right. You did everything you could to improve.
But only in that stage, because I had a clear idea I wanted to climb as much as possible because I was happy. Simple as that.
Yep.
I was happy when I climbed. So, and I wanted to do it harder and harder because it was more fun. As harder, more fun for me.
Yeah.
I enjoy the difficulty because, I don't know, it's like a game. I can't do it now, but I'm going to think how to improve this ability I haven't now. And this is directly related with my passion with research.
Right.
Because this feeling is because I want to answer questions. I make me questions about how to improve my abilities. It doesn't matter what ability, I want to improve them. Now I think how to do it, and I go to the internet to do research on papers, and there I find answers, some of them, but if not all them are answered in the papers published in that moment, then I need to find my own answer. And it's because of that I started my doctorate studies, because I wanted to answer my own questions.
Yeah.
But it's only about the passion for climbing more and more and better and better and better every day.
Right. And that's what most of us, that's our motivation. You know, we all want to climb harder and harder and better. And when your research came out, I think a lot of us latched onto it as, oh, here's a way for us to get better. And just for people who are listening who aren't already familiar with the study, let's talk a little bit about it. It was in 2009, right?
The first
or 2004.
Paper published was in 2012.
Okay.
But
the study happened in...
Yeah, but really, actually, that study was done in 2004.
Right.
2004. But I was doing another things.
Sure.
I was studying I was following my doctorate studies and then doing my thesis, and then I couldn't publish until then. Right. And then my Hangboards appeared, but they weren't because of a casualty. Because some guys came to me proposing to write a training plan for their Hangboards.
Right.
They were selling in that time, but these Hangboards weren't appropriate to me because they haven't the proper size of edges for progressing. So they told me, okay, Eva, design you a Hangboard and write a training plan for the Hangboards, and let's sell all together.
Yeah.
And then the Hangboards
that's where the
appeared.
Transgression and the progression Hangboard
but
came from.
many people think that they were because I wanted to sell them, and then after the Hangboards I did the research for justifying that, but it was exactly the opposite.
It was the opposite.
And I don't make a living because of my Hangboard.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only a hobby, speaking. It's fun, but it's not my life.
Right. And the study was, you had two groups of people doing maximum weighted hangs and minimum edge depth hangs. And essentially the study was seeing which order those worked best in.
Yeah.
Is it better to do a phase of max weighted hangs before minimum edge depth, or is it better to do minimum edge depth followed by a phase of maximum added weight?
Yeah, exactly. That was the question of the research to be answered. And it happens that the order weighted hangs and then minimal edge hangs resulted better than the opposite. But it's only about that study. It's only about the order. But it's true that with weighted hangs, you obtain more betterment than with minimal edge hangs at the beginning. But comparing in that group the results. But in real life, if you have never done hangboarding, it's better for you starting with minimal edge method,
right?
Because it's less aggressive and is the minimal dose that can provoke improvement. So it's smarter starting with the minimal dose method.
Right, because in your study, the people already had significant climbing experience.
Yeah, a lot. It was like 15 years of experience.
Right.
And they had 8A or 8A plus. No, almost 8B, which is 14C level. And they were experimented climbers and they were strong. So they were prepared for doing that, for hanging with, 20 kilos or 30 kilos.
Okay.
40 kilos.
So they had 8. Did they have 8B is 13D, I think?
It's 13. No, it's 13. Yeah, true. It's 13D.
Okay. So did they have 8B level or 13D level, or were they 14C level climbers? That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, they were on average 14. Let me think. It's 13D.
Okay, so they were
13D.
8B climbers average.
Yeah, 13D.
Okay.
Some of them had sent almost 14D.
Okay.
And some of them only 13A.
Right.
13B.
So regardless, they all had quite a bit of experience before doing this plan.
Yeah, but not on hangboarding. Because in that time, 2004, nobody used these methods.
Right.
Honestly. Weighted hangs, I didn't see many people doing that. There were some people using that before me, obviously. I'm not the discovery of that.
Right.
It's not that. But they weren't so popular like nowadays. So, but they were prepared. Their tissues were prepared for hanging with extra weight.
Right.
But I'm not recommending doing that to beginners, obviously. No, neither beginners in hangboarding and neither to elite climbers who never used any hangboarding method. For everyone, the best initial method is the easiest. Because it happens that in training, when you haven't used any method about any aspect, the best method for you is the easiest, because you are going to obtain improvements.
Right.
Anyway.
Right, and most of us want to go to the hardest. We want to
exactly.
We want to go to what the best most trained people use because we think that's the way forward. And what you're saying is that we need to do the most approachable, easiest method of training first. And once that doesn't provide any benefit, then we move on to something harder.
Yeah, it's true, because body doesn't understand about harder or softer.
Right.
They know about if he or she, it's your body is a he or she. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
If your body never did something, the adaptations are going to happen with that something.
Right.
No matter the intensity, because adaptations in a physiological way happens like that. Novelty is enough.
Yeah, I think that was a big takeaway last night during your presentation. So there were a lot of questions about the Hangboard protocols, and your answer was pretty much just Justin and Steve were both asking about when you hit a plateau with this program, what do I do? Where do I switch to? What protocol is the next best? And your answer was just change something.
Exactly. Change something. Yeah, because it happens that body get used to that stimulus, especially if it's because of neural adaptations, because they happen very quickly in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks.
Right.
Depending on your level, you have the adaptations. So you need to create new stimulus. So you need to introduce some change in your training. Obviously, if you want to gain strength or power, these changes need to be about the intensity and about the exercise.
Right.
Not about the break between intervals, not about the volume. Sometimes you can do the modification on volume, but only if you are a very, very experimented climber.
Okay.
And you are prepared for that. But you are creating structural changes probably.
Right. Can we talk a little bit about the differences between neural adaptations and structural adaptations?
Yeah, of course.
Why would you look for one or the other? Is one, and I know what the answer is to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is it better to look for neural or structural adaptation?
The better again is the most proper for you in
right.
each moment.
Yep. So why would we look for neural adaptation? What's the benefit there?
Yeah, you need. It happens that strength depends of several factors. Develop strength from how the signal to your muscle came, the way that muscles and fibers connect among them and synchronize, and which is the motor firing and the recruitment, meaning the number of fibers activated at the same time, and also about the fine tuning of the contraction, so speaking. All those factors are called neural adaptations, and they happen in a very short amount of time, several weeks, even sometimes days.
Right.
They are very quickly. So they are really motivating because you are gaining strength very quickly.
Right.
And you are like excited.
Mm-hmm.
But also because they are quickly, you reach a plateau immediately. And that's when structural changes has a place in the equation. Structural changes are related to hypertrophy,
So muscle size.
and also with capillarization, also related with the source of energy. So the quantity of glycogen your muscles can replace and store.
Okay.
And also related with the enzymes for the metabolic pathways.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are related to structural changes.
Okay.
But because they are structural, it means that your body needs to create them, and this takes a time
Right.
to be developed.
So it's not a fast result.
Exactly. You need several weeks. More or less, you need a minimum of 6 weeks. So speaking for an average athlete, 8 is better, but it's better 12, 20, I don't know. So if you combine both changes, you are gaining strength in a steady way.
Right.
You are continuously, hopefully,
Yeah.
gaining strength. But you need to be aware about the place of every method, of each method, when using neural adaptations. For example, if you have a vacation from here to in 2 weeks or in 2 months, better, you probably are going to gain strength using the neural method.
Right. So if you're looking for a quick boost,
exactly,
neural adaptations are what you should look for.
Yeah, and it's also comfortable to use because the break between sets is long.
Right.
And you are learning about the management of your training load, meaning the kilos or the size of the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And you are learning about your body, about how you react to each set, to each repetition. Mm-hmm. And it's very beneficial in many ways. And then you change to or a structural method, or you change to another hanging time, different hanging time, mm-hmm. in order to again create some stress on your body, right. to react and gain in.
Right. So a protocol that's more neural adaptation is better specifically for short training periods,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where you're looking for a trip that's coming up, or you've got a few weeks until the season is here. Is there a reason to train neural adaptations if you're in a longer training cycle, or should you just focus on structural changes then?
I prefer the first option, I said. First, neural method.
Okay.
I have several reasons for that. I explained some of them right before.
Mm-hmm.
And the third is that if you achieve more strength with this method and quickly, you are going to use in the structural method, you are going to use smaller edges or more added weight with with a lower rest period length, because you have acquired strength in the beginning.
Right.
You understand? And this is more beneficial than starting first with the structural changes method, what is so cruel and intensive, because you need to use smaller breaks between sets in
For
order
the structural.
for structural changes. There are three parameters to modify in this method. One of these is hanging time. If you use this, you have to use hanging times very long and not very long rest interval between the sets, and more volume, more sets than in neural changes method.
Right.
And this is very intensive and stressful, and you need to put more effort than in the other method.
Right.
So it makes sense to me to use first the more comfortable method, so speaking.
Yeah, I think I really like the neural methods, partially because a lot of my clients are people who have full-time jobs, kids, families, and it's a shorter workout, and they can get big benefits from spending less time. So I really like it for that reason. I like to put it into their training plans in such a way that it's not going to affect their family life or their work life. And if it's just a very short workout, then that's helpful to them. So I appreciate it for that reason. Let's just really quickly, I know you've talked about these things already. I want to just make sure I've got it detailed for people so that they can understand why one method is neural versus a method that's structural. So a neural hanging workout, correct me if I'm wrong here, needs to be very intense and a shorter hang with a longer rest.
Yeah, and shorter volume than
less overall volume
than structural changes method. But here there is a curious thing that structural method, for example, repeaters, is the name and the more popular nowadays. Repeaters or intermittent hangs. I like more this term, intermittent hangs. You do it in short time. In the method I proposed, is very quick, because you do 3 sets of 4 repetitions of 10 seconds on and 5 seconds off and 1 minute between sets. So in 5 minutes or 6 minutes, you have finished the workout.
Okay, so your intermittent hang workout is considerably shorter than a lot of the popular repeater workouts that
from other authors.
Right.
Yeah, in the method I proposed, I use only 3 to 5 sets of 4 repetitions. I use only one grip type, but this is because probably in my country every climber after doing handboarding do climbing training on the wall.
Right.
But if you don't have any climbing wall in your home, or you are working and you don't have the time, it makes more sense to me doing several grip types in the session, because you are not going to climb.
Right.
But if you are going to climb, it's impossible doing 3 grip types in the same session with such intensity and such a shorter interval between sets, and then doing endurance climbing or bouldering. It's not possible. You need to do only in a separate session that training if you want to climb after.
Right. Do you always do your hangboard workouts before climbing? Or are there occasions where you do the hangboard workout after climbing?
I only do hangboarding after climbing in the case, for example, if I use the maximal hangs method and I'm in the competitive cycle or a specific mesocycle. Sometimes for the elite climbers, I used in the opposite order, meaning first power endurance method, then bouldering method in the wall, and then maximal hangs.
Okay.
Why? Because it's the specific way when you are climbing hard. You are fatigued and you have to grab small holds. So I reproduce that combination of exercises to mimic the situation in climbing.
Right. And only for the elite climbers.
But it's only with elite climbers and only in a specific mesocycle. Before that, if the elite climber needs a lot of finger strength, I do it always before climbing. And if they can, in a separate session in the morning.
Right.
In order to make sure they are recovered enough for doing the bouldering training in the evening or the technique training in the evening.
Yeah, that's where I've found the most benefit myself is hangboard in the morning, do my finger strength training in the morning, and then climb in the evening, bouldering.
Yeah, it's better.
That's where I've found the most benefit.
Yeah.
When in the case of someone who really needs to, really intense bouldering is going to help them quite a bit, but they only have one session, would you still put the finger strength first? Okay.
Always. When you are talking about strength, when you are talking about power training, it's very important. It's key to be fresh. Is the key for strength gains. So you need to do it first in the session.
Right.
As the more important is the goal, also, it's better to do it before. Better to do it fresh. And then the physical, technical content, so speaking, it's bouldering or power endurance or strength exercises in general for your upper body or your core or your shoulder or your legs. After that, or in the evening or one day in a week in a separate session. But finger strength always the first.
Even if it's a structural protocol?
Good question, because in that case, I need to separate from the contents of strength in the wall. And I use that method in the days I train power endurance.
Okay.
Or endurance. And I do it first in the session.
Okay.
Also.
Okay.
So I use the maximal hangs in the days I do bouldering and power training. And in the days that I train power endurance, and contents similar to that with strength and conditioning, I do the intermittent hangs or repeaters, what you prefer to call them.
Right.
In those days. So I put far away the contents of related with endurance from the contents related to strength, because the endurance or structural changes method interfere in a negative way with the contents related with strength.
Right. Like you just said, you need to be fresh to get the most out of strength and power sessions. And those endurance sessions don't leave you fresh.
Exactly. And with the boulderer athletes, they usually do the fingerboarding and the campus board exercises in different days than climbing training.
Do they do fingerboarding and campus exercises in the same session?
Depending on the exercise on campus.
Okay.
Because I usually use campus board as a summary of finger strength and pulling strength.
The two combined.
Yeah, it's the perfect combination. And similar to climbing. You are pulling and you are grabbing holds.
Right.
Without feet. So it's very specific. But at the beginning in the season, I use fingerboarding and pulling strength and different exercises. And I combined them after that. I can do at the same time fingerboarding, but depending on the exercises you use in the campus board, I use in the same session or not.
Yeah, when I've had people who, because of time limits, need to be doing both in the same session, I try to keep and it's same here. Tell me if you think this is a wrong method or if I should do something different. But I've had people do a more neural hangboard workout, so a max hang, and then their campus workout is very short and always on the bigger holds, focused more on the pulling power as opposed to adding in that finger strength component that you're talking about.
That's good.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah. And another method is combining in a contrast method those exercises. So using maximal hangs and then go to the campus board for a short exercise and then again another set of the combination of those exercises. And this is a good approach, but only for advanced athletes.
Right.
And
so
in
a hard
the specific,
isometric hang followed by an explosive exercise on the campus board.
Using for shorter time that finger strength and with a peak force.
Right.
When you grab a hold, which is very specific and you are working on your explosive strength, you are combining heavy loads with medium loads in a specific way, and this is very interesting for advanced climbers.
Right, that's what I was going to say. For a higher level climber, this
for
is
higher
something
level only.
Who've developed the high strength and the high dynamic climbing style and then can combine them together.
Exactly, yeah. But many people, for example, women, we have it's not bad, our finger strength, but our pulling strength is behind our finger strength in many cases. So we need to develop the pulling strength on big holds on campus board or with pull-ups, doesn't matter, with weight exercises.
Right.
And working on the finger strength, and only when you have achieved enough level of both, you combine them on the campus board in a 20 millimeters edge or 25 or 30 millimeters rank. Otherwise, you are losing your time, especially if you are doing laddering. Because you have no enough pulling strength. You can do maximal reach or maximal one move. It's good for pulling also, but not for laddering.
Right.
So you need to attend. You need to pay attention to the climber as always. What is the perfect combination?
Yeah.
It depends on.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you talked a lot about last night, and I think is really important, paying close attention to that specific climber, individualizing how they're using a hangboard or a campus board, and how the programming works depends on the climber.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's really, really important. And, I was thinking last night after I left the presentation about having this conversation with you. And my thought was I should call this podcast the best hangboard protocol. Because that's what everyone wants. They want the best thing.
Yeah, you are going to attract attention, and then they are going to be frustrated because I'm going to say the opposite.
Right.
There is no best method.
Yeah.
There is no magic bullet. You say that. Yeah, because bodies like that, you reach a plateau. No matter what method you are using, you are going to reach a plateau. And more importantly than that, if you are a beginner in handboarding and you are using the more advanced method, you are shortening your long-term improvements because you are burning stages of development in your body, because your body are getting used very quickly to the more advanced method, and you are losing the opportunity to take advantage of the easiest ones.
Right.
They are going to be beneficial for you for sure, because there are many studies about that. With untrained people, any method, is beneficial.
Right.
Any. So I prefer to use the easiest, the more comfortable, that would affect less to your skin. I don't know. The more comfortable for you is the best one for you. And then you need to think how to change. If you introduce small changes, it's better, because you are not burning faces.
Right.
You are not shortening your improvements in long term. So if you are using 12 seconds hanging, and then you go to 10 seconds, and then you go to 8 hanging time, and then perhaps you go to 15 again, and then 20, and then you change to repeaters, because in this way you are going to be motivated all the time, because you are changing. And you are thinking, well, my body is creating new adaptations because I'm doing well this aspect. But I reckon that this behavior is not easy to do, because you need all the time to pay attention to you and to your training, and this is an effort.
Yeah.
This is a cognitive effort, and requires energy, and requires you spend energy on yourself, and not many people has that energy, perhaps, or I don't know.
People very much want to just be told what to do, and
it's easier.
What the best method is, and I can just do this, and then I'll become the best. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And there's more to it than that. They have to spend time thinking about what is the next best step for me toward my goals. Because some of the protocols out there may not lead them toward their goal this time. When they have a new goal, that might be the best protocol for them. It's hard to say. So what you're really saying is that there is no best protocol, but all of the protocols are the best.
Yeah.
It just depends on you.
Depends on you, and depends on you set your goal. Because if you are climbing on a crack with many slopers and with pinches, and you are training on an edge with half crimp, and you need your open hang and your sloper strength, you are spending your time in something perhaps useless.
Right.
So you need to think a little. What is for? What do I need? And then I think a little for a minute, and I can decide the best method for me. If I'm climbing in Red River and I need power endurance, and I need to climb in a specific way, not in a very static way, looking for the holes, and that's it, because you are going to get tired immediately.
Right.
Because the endurance that routes require. So you need to think about your goal, about how many times you have been training until then, and what you have done before that moment. If you have been using 10 seconds time for hanging in your maximalist hangs, strength training, it's time to change. You need to change. You can't do that forever because it's useless. You are only maintaining, hopefully, but perhaps you are spending your time for nothing.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to hear you as someone who's spent a lot of time, a lot of energy thinking about which hang protocol works better than another hang protocol in what situation. It's nice to hear you. You're not saying it doesn't matter, but you are saying there is no one best for everyone.
And forever.
And forever.
For everyone,
right?
and forever. Yeah, because this is important. And that's why perhaps is the reason that my articles are so long.
Yeah.
Always. Because I'm worried about the details. I'm worried about you think this protocol is the best for you forever.
Right.
I want to give you the details in order you choose on your own what is the best method for you.
Right.
How many sets, how much is the perfect hanging time for you in that moment, because there are many options.
Yeah.
And you can invent your own method also.
Right.
Because
But Eva says that this is the best way.
no, it's not true. I never said that. And for a long time, because I sometimes some people write me, email me, and I see in the forum websites sometimes things that I think, oh my God, I haven't said that in any moment, but they are saying that this is what I said.
Right.
Eva said that the method more effective is maximal weighted hangs. It's not true.
Right. That's missing a lot of the parts.
Yeah, the moment and the study, because I did I published these papers, but a study is a very close experiment. You
Right.
need to choose the people, the duration of the intervention, a hanging time, a rest between sets, a number of sets, and what's your question to be answered. So you need to be very specific, but real world is not like that.
Right. The results of that study, what we can extrapolate from that study,
From any situation.
is also very specific to that study.
So, yeah,
We can't necessarily take that out into every situation and apply it.
exactly. And for many years, people were doing this protocol, weighted hands and minimal age, and weighted hands and minimal age, 10 seconds and 10 seconds all the time, because that study.
Right.
And yeah, it was like frustrating for me, because was misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
That this is the only protocol beneficial for everyone, and this is not true. I only did a study and I did a research, and it's up to you to choose your option, depending on your level and your situation and your goals and your experience on training. And that's why I started, when I could, I started to write again about the different protocols to use, about comparison between them, because I did also a research about repeaters versus maximal hangs versus a combination.
Right.
But I couldn't publish until now. So people weren't talking about those different options until then. So
And when that study came out, people did the same thing. They said, well, Eva says this is better than this. So from now on, we don't do this anymore. We only do this. And again, I know we're saying the same thing over and over here, but that's not what you're saying at all. What you're saying is that in this situation, here are how these compare against each other.
Yeah, and it makes sense that for finger strength gains is better maximal hangs.
Right.
If you have only 8 weeks or 4 weeks, is better maximal hangs. Because for repeaters, you need to expect for more weeks of training.
For structural changes.
Yeah, but in the studies, many studies about every sport say the same. Yeah, heavy loads lead to higher gains on short term than the others. But in long term, what is the case in every climber, you need to combine. So you need to keep in your mind those ideas, to combine the methods, and depending on your goal and the time you have for training, you choose. But you choose because you know what you are doing.
Right.
It's a well-informed choice.
Yeah, and you've paid attention coming up through the levels of hangboarding, of training, of campusing, of climbing, whatever it is, instead of, like you mentioned before, people just want to jump straight to the hardest thing. It's better to learn coming up through those easier methods. Or easier is a loaded word, because people don't want to do it if it's easier.
Yeah, because they feel weak.
Yeah.
They feel not so good that they are using the most glamorous and sophisticated method. Because feeling well with yourself is also important. The motivation in your training. But again, it's a matter of maturity somehow as a climber, but also as a person.
Yeah.
If you are only following the mass, following the mainstream, we are different each other. So you need to be mature and you need to be smart.
Yep.
Because again, what do you want? What they want, what we want is improving all for all my life,
Yeah,
if I can.
Absolutely.
And secondly, not getting injured. And third, or even better, the first one is being motivated enough for continuing, for keeping training and keeping climbing. And for the three ideas, it's important to do the best for you in each moment. So forget about the mainstream, forget about the videos on the internet, because they are not for you.
Right.
Many people are doing campus board with straight arms because they have the power in their arms for pulling and flexing elbows.
Right.
And this is crazy. When I see this, I think
it makes me cringe every time.
What are you thinking? What is for this exercise for you?
Yeah. I really like the phrase, start where you are. And I think that when we go outside and we go choose a route to try, we do that oftentimes automatically. If you're a 5'11" climber, you don't go outside and get on 514. But when we go to train, if we're a 5'11" climber and we've just seen a 514 climber doing a campus board workout on the internet, we want to go do that workout. So I think the idea of starting where you are needs to be implemented across the board, not just in your climbing, but also in your training, be it fingerboarding, campusing. Did that person campus when they were a 5'11" climber? Probably not.
Probably not.
And that's how they got to be a 514 climber and able to do it.
Yeah, so it's only about patience, and it's only about stopping for a while to think about a couple of things at the end.
Yeah,
is who you are and what you want, and if you want to do it well, it doesn't matter what people think about you.
Right.
Because your goal is in long term. Wait for a moment, because in a few years, who knows?
Right.
I'm working on my improvement. If you are working in improving, you are going to improve.
Yeah.
Every day, because it's true. Every day you are changing. If you are doing well.
They might be tiny, small improvements.
Yeah,
but they're still improvements.
Not always in your physical aspect many times, because this is not an endless path. Physical capabilities sometimes, especially related with power and strength, you reach a plateau in your life many times. Somehow. But you need to create adaptations in other ways, coordination and efficiency and
tactics
and body control and cognitive changes. This is really important, especially for endurance. Many people don't know that. Is what I said before many times when I'm trying a very endurance route with many stamina. You want to fall down, because you don't want to keep suffering.
You don't
so
want to
much.
keep fighting.
Yeah. So it's on your mind. And there are nowadays there are a line of investigation about that, about the mental aspect of fatigue and endurance training, how everything depends of your inhibition response. It's called. It means in very short phrase. I'm going to keep doing this.
Right.
I want to do it. I'm tired, but I want to reach that goal. I'm going to try again. I'm not going to give up. I don't want this feeling, but I want to do this route. I'm going to keep doing.
Yeah, that's more important to me than being comfortable right in this moment.
Yeah. So it's only about one move else.
Yeah, exactly. Have you read the book? I don't know if there's a Spanish translation.
How bad do you want it? It's a book.
That's a great book. Yeah.
Yeah. About Marcora studies, you say.
Mm-hmm.
It's
there's a book called Endure by Alex Hutchinson.
I haven't read it.
It's relatively new, but it also is digging into the science of endurance and how the brain interacts with the body to allow you to continue or not.
Yeah, he has many articles about that in the blog. He writes. I have read those articles, but especially the article from Marcora about that inhibition response, about the cognitive effort on the endurance training, how important it is. It's not only about how many sets I have to do and how much rest I do between them. It's also about your mindset during your training. If you put all the aspects together, it's a better training. Concentration, motivation, and physical aspects and tactics. Everything combined in your set is better.
Yeah, I thought it was great seeing the image of you. I believe it was when you were working on White Zombie, which is 14B. So 8,
it's 14B. Yeah,
8C, is that 8C?
Yeah.
That you said that was important for you to learn new tactics.
Yeah.
When you were working on that route. And I think a lot of people tend to believe that they already know everything there is to know about tactics when they've reached 513.
And this is key.
But there's still so much to learn.
It's key for me. I started climbing outside with my stopwatch from many years ago. I don't remember. 10 years ago, I started to do that because I realized that I was exhausted when I reached the last key section because I am very effort climber, and if I need to rest for 10 minutes in a bad rest, I do it. Because I suffer wherever is needed. But then I couldn't reach the car because I was destroyed because of the resting points. So I learned to use my stopwatch, and when I reach the stop section, the resting section, I push the button of the stopwatch and I tested what is the best time to be here for me. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, okay. And then I learned to recover in just 2 minutes
Right.
in every resting section, no matter if it's very good holds or not. But 2 minutes for me is the goal to reach regarding recovery between cracks in a route.
Right. That's the magic bullet for you.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
In that time.
But everyone listening is going to say, okay, I need to only rest
no,
for 2
please.
minutes.
Please, listeners, please don't do that. No, you need to.
Eva says.
You need to test what is the best time for you, and another important thing is that you automatize your climbing. If you are rehearsing the route, you forget about the emotions and feelings because you are only a robot.
Right.
You are only executing the task.
You're a machine.
I'm this hold with right hand, and now I do a drop knee, and now I look at the next hole. It's only an automatized task. You are not thinking, and you are concentrated in the task. You are not thinking in the failure. You are not thinking in your problems in life. You are only executing, and you are waiting for your watch, your time. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to the next section.
The Eva robot.
Type robot.
And then you don't let the emotion back in until you're at the finish.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't allow the emotions appear because they distract you.
Yeah.
Sometimes. If they are positive, okay. You can work on it, and I work on that all the time. I say things to me. I called them, it's called self-instructions. And all the time I say to me things during the climb. Come on, I don't know. Every section has concrete extractions for that.
Yeah, so those are built into your process, into your robotic process.
Exactly.
Like, I need this instruction at this moment.
Yeah. And it's very fun.
Well, I think
because
it's interesting.
You learn a lot about how you can keep concentrated along the task in this way. And for everyone, again, it's different because I had a climber. He only used images in his brain about videos, about songs, about, I don't know, jokes. It's different for everyone.
Yeah, I just recently, on one of the small projects that I was working on, had to be very focused through the first 12 meters or so. Very focused through that. Nothing in my brain except for robotic execution. But then once I was through that and in the easier climbing above, it worked best for me to repeat lines from a song.
Yeah, distraction.
To take me out of thinking and I was just singing a song and executing the easier moves.
Yeah.
So I could allow that in through that easier section. I think it's fascinating though. You said something that sparked something in my brain. When you're robotic and you're not allowing the emotions to affect your climbing, so often those emotions, if they're allowed in, do mark the end of the climb, whether it's the anchors or not.
Yeah.
If we allow emotions like fear and uncertainty and doubt into our climb if we come out of robot mode and allow these emotions in, that marks where the end is going to be. Until you've learned to quiet those emotions, come back into robot mode and continue.
Yeah. I usually have several sentences. Works for me. One of them is, okay, you never know, because sometimes when you are climbing, you are evaluating yourself. You are over analyzing your actions, and this is really bad.
I'm too tired, I can't do it.
Oh, this time I'm doing bad. I'm not doing so well that the previous. Oh my God! And you are anticipating the failure. So I cut the thought, and I think, okay, I never know.
Right.
What happens? We'll see. You climb. Only the present hold is the best trick for me. Only the present. Only this hold, and then another hold, and then another one. Who knows the future? The future is not written, and you sometimes anticipate the future because you lived. If you have lived a very good past, you have a past of overcoming obstacles and sending routes very hard for you, but you have worked enough, and you have done it. That past is anticipating that your future could be good also.
Right.
Because why not? You have done before, so you don't know. You only have to keep on climbing.
You never know.
And see what happens.
Yeah, and when you don't know, you can just say to yourself, well, Eva says.
No, Eva doesn't. Yeah, you can think what you want. If
Eva says no one knows, so try
exactly. Just try.
Yeah.
And then analyze and reach conclusions and put some work for you, for time, and you are going to improve for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's unavoidable. Improving is unavoidable.
Yeah. Eva says it's unavoidable.
Who knows?
Well, Eva, I appreciate you sitting down and chatting, and your presentation last night was great. I wish everyone had a chance to see it and to,
thank you,
and to understand what that process looks like from your perspective. So yeah, thank you a ton.
Thank you to you and your listeners for the patience trying understanding me.
Yeah, but you do a great job with English. That's not even a concern.
I'm trying. I'm not perfect, so
yeah,
I'll improve for sure.
You're always improving. Eva says it's unavoidable.
Yeah. If you are alive, you are changing and you are improving.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Eva.
Thank you.
Now, when I first heard Eva's pragmatic approach to training, I was actually somewhat surprised. I had fallen into basically the same trap that many people had, looking for answers to big, broad questions within small, specific studies, when in fact the author of those studies knew better, and I should have too. This isn't to say that the studies are pointless, not at all, not even close. What they are the first steps forward in a march that is much, much longer than we're giving it credit for. I mean, look at the science of strength training, for example. It's much, much older than the science of climbing, and they're still arguing about the most effective methods. Why? Because there isn't one answer. Eva is very aware of how these little snapshots in time, like this podcast or blog posts, can be taken out of context. And with that in mind, Eva is compiling a fingerboard training guide on her website. Right now it's in 3 parts, and she says more are planned. But of course, give her time. She's busy researching, training, coaching, climbing for herself too, just like you and all of us are. And you can find links to that right there in the show notes on your pocket supercomputers. Obviously, I think anyway, that the one big takeaway here is that there is no one-size-fits-all method that works best in every situation. To decide what's best, you have to know about the climber, their goals, and their experience, both climbing and training experience. And that can give you an educated place to start. A start simply because people may respond differently to the same stimuli based on each person's differing profile. Eva knows this, and she applies it in her own coaching and really wants to make sure that everyone understands this. A 7.3 repeater isn't better than a 10.5 repeater or a max weighted hang or a minimum edge depth hang or whatever. They're just different protocols that will produce different results for different people. And we're constantly learning to better predict what those results will be. We're taking big steps in that direction thanks to people like Eva. I've got a note from Eva in which she lays out some basic principles of approaching fingerboarding. But you're going to have to wait for that discussion. Nate will be here in February. He and I will discuss it in a board meeting. So until then, first off, huge thanks to Eva for sitting down and joking with me and having this conversation. It was amazing. I hope to do more of these. I'll come to Spain. We'll do a whole series. And you can find Eva at the links in your show notes, right there, again, in your pocket supercomputer. You can find us at powercompanyclimbing.com and at Power Company Climbing on the Instagrams, Facebooks, and Pinterests, of course. And you can look for us on the Twitters, but because Eva says we don't tweet, we scream like eagles.
This time, 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 power, this time the build, power, this time the build, power, this time the build, power. This time to build 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 power. This time to build. 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 This time
You know, last night, Nate was like a little schoolgirl when we left because he's he was blushing and he was just very much like, Eva knew who I was. She knew I was the other voice on the podcast. He was so excited by that.
But he's more famous than me, for sure. I am not.
Oh, he'll love to hear that.